Where is it? I asked myself as I wandered through the woods searching up and down for the star, looking for any signs of broken trees or rocks. 3 minutes passed and up ahead I could see an opening with light coming from it. I ran towards it, and as I got closer and closer the ground looked as if it was getting deeper and deeper up ahead. Then just as I was right at the edge of the crater, I tripped on a root from a tree and rolled down into the large crater. I hit my head on something round and metal instead of a pile of soft dirt. Ow! That freaking hurt like hell! I cried in pain as I rubbed my head. As I picked myself up off the ground, I was face to face to what it appeared to be an escape pod from a ship and not a star. So cool, I sat on my knees reaching out to touch it. When I touched the escape pod with my hand, it started to make a loud hissing noise, and a small little door was slowly opening. Once the door had finished opening, I looked inside and saw the most kick-ass controller I had ever seen. I picked up the controller and said, "Awesome! It's a wireless controller, but it looks weird." I took a closer look at it, and it had some of the features from a GameCube controller, PlayStation 2 controller, and an Xbox 360 controller. All of a sudden, my Nintendo Watch went off, reminding me that it was almost 11 and I had to hurry home. I then stood up with a controller in my hand and ran all the way back home. Minutes later, I busted through my front door with a controller gripped tightly in my hand and jetted up the stairs, leaving nothing but a dust cloud behind me. As I entered my room, I took off my red God of War hoodie, green shirt with Link on the front holding the Master Sword in one hand and the shield in the other, blue jeans and sneakers as well as socks, leaving me in my boxers, which had Mario and Luigi's face all over them. Then, still holding the controller in my grasp, I plopped down on my bed and went out like a light bulb. The next morning I heard the most annoying voice popping into my dream. I was having such a wonderful dream about being alone with the most sexiest girl I have ever met, and just as it was getting to the good part when we're laying on my bed making out, I looked at the girl's beautiful face, and all of a sudden her short curly brown hair turned pitch black, sapphire blue eyes turned big and brown, and when she spoke all she was saying in a sweet soft voice was, "Sean, Mom says it's time to get up." As soon as I took a closer look at the girl's face, it turned out to be my little sister's face and not the girl I had dreamed of. I sat up so fast out of bed screaming "ah!" that my head could have snapped off and fallen to the floor. As I rubbed the sleepiness from my eyes, I could see standing at my door was my ratty little sister staring at me with her arms crossed. "Sean, Mom said to come downstairs and eat breakfast," Terry said, tapping her foot. "I'll eat breakfast once I finish making out with this sexy chick in my dream, so go away," I said, lying back down and closing my eyes. "But Mom said," Terry said, walking towards my bed and shaking my leg. "Mom said baloney," I said, jerking my foot away and fixing my pillows. "No, Mom said come downstairs and eat now," Terry screamed as she stomped her foot. "Nope," I said, putting my pillow over my head. "Yes," Terry screamed as she slammed her fists on my bed. "Don't make me use my kick-ass controller on you," I said, grabbing my new controller that was lying next to me and aiming it at Terry. "As if that controller looks ugly and it's probably broken like all your other controllers as well as your face," Terry said, sticking her tongue out. "Okay, I'm going to press the start button," I said, grinning. "Like I care," Terry said, walking away. "Hopefully when I press it she'll blow up or disappear." I then pressed the start button, making the controller do some weird beeping noise, and all of a sudden my little sister was frozen where she stood. Her waving hair from when she was walking towards the door had stopped in its place, and her left foot was at an angle from when she was about to take a step. I stood up out of bed and walked slowly in front of Terry, keeping an eye on her to see if she would move again. Standing in front of her, I waved my hand back and forth in front of her face, trying to make her blink. When I realized that I had paused her with my controller, I then pressed the start button again, making Terry bump right into me with confusion on her face. "How'd you get in front of me so quickly?" she yelled in shock. Terry rubbed her eyes and shook her head. "Forget about it. Come on, it's breakfast time," she said, grabbing my hand and pulling me with her. I couldn't believe what I had just done with my new controller. "I have to show this to Melinda." Once I was finished eating my breakfast, I grabbed the controller from my room and ran across the street to Melinda's house. The house was a great two-story with 2 windows on each side, black roof, and rose bushes along the walkway. Every house was white and looked alike except for Melinda's. I rang the doorbell and 10 seconds later Melinda's mom, Jessica, opened the door. Jessica wore an apron over her plain red shirt and blue jeans. Her eyes were green and she had long blonde hair. "Why, hello, Sean, are you here to see Melinda?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am," I said, smiling. She then stepped aside as I walked in the house and climbed the stairs to Melinda's room. Melinda's been my friend since we were only 7 years old and we pretty much know everything about each other. As I got to the top of the stairs, I listened closely down the hallway to what appeared to me was the "I'm a Barbie Girl" song, coming from Melinda's room. When I reached Melinda's pink door, I slowly turned the doorknob and gently pushed the door open to see what she was up to. Melinda was facing her window, swinging her head side to side, making her long black hair sway from one side to the other, shaking her round ass back and forth, and singing along with the song. I snuck in watching her with a big smirk on my face and stood behind her with my hands behind my back. When the song was over, she stopped dancing and saw me behind her in her oval-shaped mirror. She quickly turned around with her cheeks flushed red and said, "How long were you standing there?" I laughed and said, "About a minute." Then she gave me an evil look, took out her headphones, and placed them on her head. "So why are you here?" Melinda asked. I pulled out my controller from my back pocket and showed it to her. "You got a new controller?" she asked. "Yes, but it's no ordinary controller," I said. "I want you to stand where you are and I'm going to appear behind you without you knowing, okay?" "Yeah, right, you're just being silly," Melinda said, rolling her eyes. I pressed the start button and the controller made the same beep noise as before. Then I stared at Melinda with her green eyes staring into mine, not blinking at all, her hair perfectly still, with the curls on the bottom corners of her hair, and both legs and arms still in place. "Melinda?" I said, waving my arms back and forth. "Awesome. It worked again. She's really going to freak out," I said as I was walking behind her. Once I was behind her, I pressed the start button and everything went back to normal. She was shocked when she didn't see me standing in front of her. Then she heard me giggle from behind her and turned around. "Oh my gosh! You weren't kidding," Melinda said in shock. "I told you," I said, grinning. "Let me try it on you," Melinda said, reaching out for the controller. I handed it to her and she pressed the start button. There was only the beeping noise, but I could still move. "Anything?" she asked. "Nope," I said, frowning. "I guess it won't work for me." "Here," Melinda said as she handed back my controller. I examined the controller some more and spotted the GameCube's on B buttons where they should be on an actual GameCube controller. "I wonder what the button does," I said, pressing the button. As soon as I hit the button, Melinda, with a stunned look on her face, jumped 10 feet in the air and landed back on her feet. "Yeah, you made me jump," Melinda said excitedly. "It's like this controller can control reality," I said, smiling. I took another look at the controller, then back at Melinda. "Now let's try the V button," I said, holding my controller out towards Melinda. The instant I pressed the V button, Melinda punched quickly in the air, nearly knocking me out. "Awesome. I made you punch," I said happily, with a big smile on my face. 20 minutes went by and I had to go home because Melinda had a doctor's appointment, so I said my goodbyes and headed out the door.